Hello, I thought about making this and so I have. I just wanted to say that on here is not quite my work, it's someone else's, which I actually have as a whole video on my channel, but I just wanted to draw attention to this refueling or docking. When a plane does this, it's called a soft dock. I think it's only just this which is attaching itself to the plane and then it can let go. But you'll see on here that it's so difficult to do a plane refueling and that they have many problems. And then we come to the docking on the ISS space station, and that seems to be a hard dock. Yeah, it's always done perfectly. Everything's always done perfectly, and I just don't see any way that they are, when they're sitting there, that they're taking any, notice of the fact that a great big huge thing is now docking to the ISS space station. So the weight differential on the docking. Anyway, I just wondered what you thought of the perfect ISS docking to the plane docking. Anyway, watch and see what you think. Leave comments below. And I came across this guy today, which was the catalyst to make the last part of the little video. It's a little long, but please watch it because everything he says is correct. So I'm just using his video to show you. And this video is brilliant. I really like this person and how they explained it. And they put a disclaimer up, so I'm just going to play it.
Flying in the same direction and at the same speed, and the pilots are every second they are carefully maintaining their altitude and the speed in order to prevent any mishaps. Okay, so as we shall see, craft that are flying at very low speeds, that it is no piece of cake to connect them together. And then we will compare it to the docking between the space shuttle and the International Space Station, and which are flying allegedly at 17,500 miles an hour, whereas these planes that are involved in mid-air refueling, I doubt if they're flying at anywhere near even 500 miles an hour. Can you see how delicate this operation is and how carefully the pilots of both these aircraft have to maneuver their planes in order to avoid any mishaps and to execute this operation? Carefully, these pilots are maneuvering their aircraft to match their speeds, the altitudes, and to maintain that speed and altitude while the planes are linked together. Okay, and also just the way these pilots dress, you know, with their helmets and their the suits, etc., that they wear. It's you can see that, you know, none of these guys are taking this casually, that it is serious business. And then we'll compare it to how the shuttle crew goes about it, or the ISS crew goes about it, to pull off a maneuver which should be like magnitudes of difficulty greater than linking these aircraft. It should be a near impossible thing to do at 17,500 miles per hour in a place where there is no atmosphere. So I do not even know how the shuttle would actually maneuver, because, you know, like once it hits space and it has reached that speed of 17,500, etc., it is just working on momentum. It is not being, there are no jet engines, etc., that it can fire to control itself out in the vacuum of, the alleged vacuum of space, I should say. Just like these aircraft here, they have the ability to change their speed, to change their altitude, etc. But how would the shuttle do that? And how would they link up at like 17,500 miles an hour without ever having any mishaps, without ever having any difficulty? You know, you hear about these launches like just about every week. Oh yeah, they're going up to the space station and they're going to take supplies. Bang, you know, and they show these pictures of them hugging and kissing and everything else, casually dressed in, you know, like these t-shirts and khakis, and just like, you know, like it's a Sunday picnic. But when you see how these aircraft pilot, like, you know, what like tension that is obvious as they are trying to do something simple like mid-air refueling, then that whole shuttle experience and the ISS experience, it becomes obvious that it is absolutely a comedy routine, like it's something that's coming out of Comedy Central, not something that is in the least bit real. Also pay attention to these videos, you know, see how clear it is, how beautiful like the Earth you can make it out to be, with the clouds and the land underneath, etc. It's absolutely clear. Now, when it comes to those space videos that they feed us, okay, you notice a substantial difference. First of all, like if this aircraft is flying, say, at about 7 miles up, let's say even 10 miles up, and the space station where they are showing this docking is at 250 miles up, so it's 25 times higher. Okay, so the view of the Earth up there should be substantially different, where you should not really be able to make out any land masses, etc. It should be just one homogenized gray or blue, you know, depending if you're looking at the land or the waters. Secondly, it's you can see in these videos that this is like one continuous action from the time that these aircraft approach each other, they link, and then they separate. Okay, it's not edited. But when you will see the space shuttle videos, it's very obvious that, you know, it's all edited. Each one instant is like beautiful bright blue, and the next it goes all dark. And it's just the especially when it comes to the docking part. As you can see, it's very clearly shown here how the docking actually takes place, or how these aircraft are actually linked. Not so in the case of the shuttle. So this is an official NASA video of the space shuttle Atlantis, I believe, allegedly docking with the ISS.
There you can see myself and Steve Swanson setting up for one of our mid-course correction burns and moved to the rendezvous this morning. Yeah, and what you saw right there was Daniel Levis just checking out his handheld laser. And here you can see our commander.
So here, looking out of the shuttle window, you can see the alleged space station. But what you notice here is, I noticed here was that there's, all these dots that are around the space station, which look like stars. They may not be, but I mean, I would like to make this observation that NASA has claimed that the reason there were no photos, there were no stars in the Apollo photos, for example, is that in the daytime, a space where this International Space Station, the shuttle may be, is very much like what we have here on Earth. In the daytime, the sunlight is so bright that you should not be able to see any stars. So I wonder if what they're showing here are stars or something else. Now you'll also notice here that for the most part, this video is of the inside of the cockpit of the shuttle, okay? Not of the outside, which is what we would all like to see.
Again, it's myself and Steve Swanson still performing or getting ready to perform one of our mid-course correction burns. We did 4 of those today en route to the rendezvous.
Now this astronaut, NOT, is saying that, they're in the middle of making a mid-course correction, and they've done 4 of them today. The question is how? This craft is moving purely in momentum, and how are they able to make course corrections is what I would like to know. Secondly, look, pay attention to these guys. They are obviously all pretending to do things. They're not really doing anything whatsoever, unlike those pilots and that crew that we saw in those aircraft which are involved in mid-air refueling.
Newest station crew member Clay Anderson looking at his new home.
Now look carefully at this space shuttle crew as it prepares for what should be the most nerve-wracking part of the experience, trying to dock with another craft while they're flying at 17,500 miles per hour and pretty much having no real maneuverability of the craft, because the space shuttle, for all we were told, it was just a glider, okay? It was just something, did not have any power, it was a glider. And they say, might have had some boosters, etc. How would the boosters work in a vacuum? Complete lie. Wouldn't work, okay? But just see how casual these guys are as compared and contrasted to the crew of the aircraft that we just saw that were involved in mid-air refueling.
And now you can see here we've got Pat and JR up on the flight deck en route to the rendezvous. Both of those fellows work the APDS system. Another requirement we have as we approach is to do photo documentation, do a complete coverage of the station, and we will do that with those 2 cameras.
And also pay attention to how this photo documentation is done. This guy, he has a 400 millimeter lens, okay? And anybody that's a photographer knows, when you're shooting with those kind of lenses, what you need first and foremost is a tripod. Okay, and he just points it out the window, and that's how, flying at 17,500 miles an hour, they are going to do photo documentation, which is going to be used to determine the, whatever they need to determine, or whatever data they need to collect about the International Space Station. Do you see these guys doing anything at all? To me, it looks like, they are all like basically pretending, essentially. And, one guy even looks like he's reading the Sunday newspapers, and none of them are concerned. None of them have any kind of, anxiety, which should be always foremost on their minds when they're trying to execute this maneuver, which, you only see in Hollywood movies, but in real life should be one of the most challenging things that any, people would be required to do.
The reason we were doing this is so that the station crew could take pictures of the RCC and the tiles on the shuttle's belly.
Now this is indeed a most interesting view. So the way they're describing this is that the shuttle is above the International Space Station, and the space station guys are actually taking photos of the underbelly of the space shuttle where their heat tiles are. And that's the question in itself. Why are the heat tiles only on one side? When the shuttle enters the atmosphere, does it only enter like one way? And there's no heat or friction on the top part? That's a ridiculous idea. But look at this, the shuttle is in bright light. So obviously the sun is blaring down the space station is in bright light. So obviously the sunlight is shining brightly on it. What happened to the background? Why did the earth and everything else just all of a sudden go all dark? And you notice in these videos, unlike those plane videos that I showed you where the background or the foreground, it stays consistently the same, the brightness, the light, the lighting, etc. is always the same. Not so here. It just, changes. Like one moment it's bright daylight, and suddenly it looks like it's night. But how can it be night and the space station is so brightly lit? Now, some people would argue that the space shuttle is basically flying upside down, and it is actually beneath the International Space Station, and the view from the shuttle is looking up into the darkness of space. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay? But the question again then becomes, okay, you can see those solar panels, etc., they're pointing the other way. So, okay, that's the top part of the space station, I guess. Then how is this bottom so brightly lit? Okay, how is it? How is it possible if the sun is beating down from above that you see the bottom of this space station and it's in brilliant light as if it would be under some floodlights?
When we were completing the RPM, you can see the station came up pretty much centered on the orbiter's tail, which was a good sign.
Now, this commander tells us, now they're centered on the orbiter, whatever that means, and the maneuvers have been successful. None of the maneuvers we saw. But what I want you to point out here is, so these guys are taking pictures of each other. The guy's taking pictures of the ISS. The ISS taking pictures of the underbelly of the shuttle, which indicates these two craft have to be very, very close to each other. And yet what we are seeing on the screen here, it does not show anything like that. There is a major problem with this video. What is that problem? Let me point it out to you. Okay, to begin with, let's just take a look at the dimensions of the ISS. How big is the International Space Station? ISS is the largest man-made object in space. Here's how it compares to notable objects, both real and fictional, all drawn to scale. So on the left side here, you can see a jumbo jet, okay? And that's a Boeing 747. Its length is 232 feet. The ISS is 356 feet, so it's 130, so it's 1.5 times the length of a jumbo jet. The width, again, because of the solar panels, etc., it is the same. This is the width of, or more than the width of a football field. The size of the ISS is compared most often to a football field. So it is gigantic in size. Now let's go back and revisit one of those earlier refueling videos. Now when you see this video, which is shot at close range, it is very easy to estimate the size of the object that is being filmed. Okay, so we know that this is a big 4-engine aircraft as opposed to some of the smaller fighter aircraft we had seen. So it is apparent that that the size can be estimated visually. Not so in the case of the ISS. Now you can tell that the shuttle is almost on top of the ISS, so it's very close to it. Now looking at it, does that actually show you something which is the size or bigger than an actual football field? To me, it doesn't. I think, if it was really that close as they are showing us here, this ISS, if it was the dimensions that they tell us it is, it should look much bigger. But the object that I'm looking at, to me, it seems like something made with Lego. Okay? That's my observation here. Now we leave aside for the moment this concept of these burners in the shuttle. using like hypergolic fuels and hydrogen and oxygen. Basically, the shuttle, the way they describe it, is like a flying bomb, as all rockets are, okay? With the amount of explosives and flammable materials that it carries to execute these burns, which is how they allegedly maneuver in space. Okay, whether they are able to execute these burns in the absence, yes, okay, so they're carrying oxygen so they can initiate the burn, let's say. But how does it provide thrust? Because there is no atmosphere to push against. So what is it that that provides the thrust for it to be able to change direction, etc.? And that is a very good question, which really has never been answered by NASA or anybody else to the satisfaction of many people who are much smarter than I and understand these, how rockets work much better, and they have asked that same question. Secondly, and more importantly, the margin of error in this, when a craft is traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, would have to be 0, okay? Because if this burn is like even like 1/10 of a percent, 100th of a percent off, it will really push the craft off direction by a factor of tens of thousands of miles in a very, very short period of time. Okay, so this is a very, very delicate operation. And in all its history of this space station, which is going on more like 20 years now, never has there been a mishap. Now, we have seen like disasters or alleged disasters with the shuttle, with the SpaceX rockets. Rockets blow up all the time. But in this case, with these dockings with the space stations, etc., never. They're all executed flawlessly without any problem. The guys are all casual, both in the shuttle and the spacecraft, as we shall see in the space station. And they all, it's like a walk in the park. But it should not be. Okay?